And if you just came in, I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time for the presentation. Oops, I sent it to somebody privately instead of to everybody. And I'm going to be muting everybody just so that we don't get distracted, but you can unmute yourself, of course, if you have questions about the presentation. So let's make sure we're all muted. And there was a question about if you need your camera on or off. I would say just for the sake of the presentation, it's probably best to have your camera off because we have a lot of people joining. It might help with bandwidth. So, you know, if we do something more interactive or we start talking to each other, we can turn the cameras back on, but it sometimes will slow Zoom down. So we'll have them off for now. You're welcome to have it on if you prefer, but it might help. All right, and it is a little after 12, so we'll get started. Whoops. Go back a slide. So today's presentation is all about Google Slides. So we're going to talk about ways that you can enhance your Google Slides. We're going to talk about how Google Slides can be used to share content, to collaborate, and to promote collaboration with students, and to assess students. So that's a fun topic. We actually have a lot of different things I'm going to cover. So I want to warn you up front that you might leave this session feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and that's okay. I don't want you to be overwhelmed, but it's understandable because there is a lot of information I'm going to give you. The presentation has a ton of links and videos and resources that you will have access to after this. So my goal is to give you a sneak peek of a lot of different strategies and ideas, and then you can take it further by reviewing some of those resources and deciding, you know, what you might want to do, you know, with your own students as a teacher or if you're in a placement right now. So the idea is to get your ideas flowing, and then you'll take it a step further with your learning. So going to our next slide. Again, I am Dr. Cassandra Kelly, and I am in the Southern region. I know I met some of you in our previous PD, that was last week, and I will be leading a few others coming up. My background is in educational technology. I was a classroom teacher. I've worked as faculty in a few different universities with student teachers that are learning about technology. And I also was a school technology coordinator. So my passion is looking at ways we can use technology with students in the classroom. And thank you for whoever posted the link again, because I know if you just joined the session, usually you don't have access to the links that were posted earlier. So if you can keep an eye on the chat, if we have other people who join and you want to share, that would be greatly appreciated, because sometimes when I'm in the presentation, it's hard for me to monitor the chat as smoothly. Put it in there one more time, and then, oh, somebody already did it. Thank you, Daniela. Perfect. And my contact information is on this slide, and you'll be actually keeping in touch with me so that if you decide to do the follow-up piece, so this PD is 2 hours, and the follow-up piece is that you'll create your own interactive presentation and try out some of the tools and tricks that we look at today. So you can earn up to 2 additional hours, which is a total of 4 CE hours. And you'll actually be sharing your presentation with me at this email, ckelly@calstateteach.net, and copying your assigned faculty on that. And I believe when we get to the attendance form a little bit later, the attendance form also has a place where you can put the link for the presentation you make. So we'll talk a little bit about that. You know, you are welcome to have another screen open and be kind of tinkering with Google Slides as we go through this presentation. I'm going to try to have some time at the very end where we can do that too, but you know how things go by really fast. So just keep in mind that you do have that option to do a follow-up where you'll be creating your own Google Slides presentation. And ideally, it's something that you'll actually use, so it's not a waste of time. All right, so having said that, Here's our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit more about presentation design when we're working with Google Slides, things to keep in mind, especially if we're working in an online setting right now, looking at remote learning, ways that we might incorporate Google Slides with students and making sure that we hit some specific elements. We will talk about some instructional strategies of how you might use Google Slides as a teacher. And I have a ton of examples. So I'm going to just kind of be speeding through a lot of examples. And the good news is that because you'll have a copy of this presentation, you'll be able to make your own copy and save those examples. And you can actually use a lot of those templates again and put your own information in them. So that's a great thing. We'll also explore interactive add-ons. I'd like to spend a little bit of time with PearDeck and a little bit of time with Nearpod. And we won't get to dive super deeply into those. That'll be up to you if you want to extend your learning with those tools, but we will spend some time highlighting how they can work nicely with Google Slides. And then I'll show you a few other things that you can add on and some resources so that you can continue your learning. And of course, we will have hopefully time for questions and answers at the end, but you're always welcome to ask questions throughout the presentation too. So just a quick review of presentation design. We want to remember that as we're creating Google Slides, there's a lot of different ways we can use these Google Slides. We can use them to present information to students, a lot of content, and we can also use them for students to create and share information or their learning. And so this is more so when you're looking at it as a presentation where you're giving the students information, we want to remember, first of all, that it needs to be engaging, accessible. Obviously, interactivity is a huge piece, especially if we're thinking about online learning, because we want the students to not just sit there and be passive learners. And I'm going to show you some ideas of how that can look. Again, to make it interactive, that also can include making it collaborative so that students are talking to one another and sharing ideas. It needs to be something user-friendly, so not too complicated, especially depending on like what grade level you're working with. You want to consider making it so that the kids can navigate through it. And at the center of it all this time, I put UDL principles. And you might have heard the term UDL, Universal Design for Learning. So considering accessibility and user-friendly, UDL means like we're making it so that there's a lot of different formats so that it will be appealing and helpful for all learners. So we'll talk about ways that you might have other visuals or audio clips or videos and just other formats of multimedia that can be used to support the students. All right, I'm just gonna slide the screen. I see everybody's cameras on my, it's blocking the slides. There we go. Okay, so for instructional strategies, so the first thing that we tend to think about with Google Slides is kind of like a Microsoft PowerPoint or a keynote or one of the classic presentations. So that's where you're thinking about that the teacher is either in front of the room or the teacher is posting a presentation in a Google Classroom, for example, to share information. So maybe they're teaching about fractions and they're going to go through some examples. So that's what we tend to think about for Google Slides or any type of presentation. And that's a great feature, but there's also some other options here with our Google Slides. So first of all, we can screencast, and screencasting is where we can project what's on the slide and we can record our voice talking with it. And when we do a screencast, then it becomes a video format. So we can actually post lessons and activities to be shared with students in an asynchronous format where they would hear our directions and they would see the visuals and then they could follow along at a later time. And so this is a great technique that you can use when you're setting up an online classroom where it's very personal because you're going through the directions and the materials and you're recording your voice as you walk through the slides or as you walk through something on the screen. And so Google has a lot of add-ins when you're working in Chrome, which is their internet browser. And we'll talk about where you can find those and what you can do with those. One of the add-ins is for screencasting, and it's where you can actually record your voice as you're working in the browser, and it will automatically save your work. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the screencasting slide. But there's other things too. The students can create presentations, like where they're working together in a group. Group as in maybe a bigger group of students. It could be a partnership, and it could be individual projects as well, but they could be creating presentations based on their learning that they're going to share with the class. You could also use Google Slides as an exit ticket, where you give them an activity that they have to create a slide and fill out. So again, those are just different ways that there might be a presentation. Some other ideas, though, are if we use what's called a hyperdoc format. Now, a hyperdoc is basically a Google document that has links and videos and other resources that make it interactive. So for example, let's say you want the students to continue their learning about fractions, and you create a hyperdoc where you have some links to the Khan Academy, some videos, maybe you have a link to a game or a practice activity, and you just put it all in one place so that the kids aren't just randomly clicking around looking for information, but it's all there. So I'm going to click on the lower grade example, and you'll have to let me know if you're able to see. Can you see my new screen opening up? You can tell me in the chat or on the mic.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is one of my student teachers created, her hyperdoc, and I've shared this before if you've attended another PD, so this might look familiar. So what she did was she was having the kids learn about their sounds. This was kindergartners. So she put in a video that she thought was age appropriate, and it has some singing and some exercises where they're talking about it. She also has a sound clip, so you can actually click on it, and so you see how she added a little animation and to the ear to help the kids know that they can click on it. And then going through it, she has the vocabulary. So she just kind of put all the information that she wanted in one place. She has the story that the kids can read and follow along, the characters. Then she has an activity where she has a question, and the students were using Class Dojo as a place where they could record their answer verbally, or they could create a video. So she has this activity with the directions here, and then they should be familiar with how to do this because I guess they did this in their class as well. Then she has some slides here that just tell them what they're going to be working on with sequencing, so thinking about the parts of the story. And she has directions here about writing, so writing about something connected to the story. She has some sentence frames on the bottom. And then she has just something fun here where they're drawing a character from the story with a video. So this is a hyperdoc where it's just a document. Now she made it into a Google Slides format where she has everything in one place so that the students can navigate through this, and they could actually do this either with her in a live session, or they could do this on their own if she just shared the link with them, and they would know kind of what to follow along. She could also record her voice as she's walking through it and post it as a video. So that's just one example. I'm going to go back to my slide presentation, and let's look at an upper grade version. Now, this one's interesting because this one has links within it, and the links take you to other parts of the presentation, so it makes it interactive. So we can click on these little arrows, and this one's talking about the water cycle. So it has the visuals of the water cycle, and it says to explore the stages and answer the quiz questions. So we can look at the parts we want to explore. We can actually click on, are you able to see how I'm clicking on parts of that image?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. So she or he, I'm not sure if this is a male or female, I found this one online. They actually just put a visual here, and then on the parts of the visual, they have added links, and the links are just taking you to other slides in the presentation, and I will show you how to do that. So there's just, you can jump around to the different slides because you can click on wherever you want to learn more about. And you can click on some of the words and it takes you to a resource. So that's another example. That's an interactive hyperdoc where the links are all taking you to places. And then if I were to go back into the quiz format, I can click on these questions. And when I click on the questions, it's just taking them to another slide. So it says, where does water go when it evaporates? Oops. If I click on it, it tells me whether or not it's correct. So this is just like a practice activity. Obviously, it's not collecting the answers and data right now. It's just giving the kids a chance to kind of play around and get familiar with some of the questions and some of the vocabulary terms. Looks like I'm just clicking all the wrong things here, right? So it's just a quick way that they can get feedback and they can interact with it, and they don't necessarily have to do this on a live call with the teacher. They could be doing this at their own pace. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our presentation. So that's another example of a format that you might use to make it interactive and also to get the students to access the content without you needing to be there. Review games and quizzes. So you could create similar to how the water cycle one had the links within the links within the presentation that take you around to other slides. I have some examples of like a Jeopardy game where you could create the slides and have different questions that navigate back and forth. So that's another option. And then on top of that, you could easily have the kids create their own games too to review. Whoops, sorry, I jumped around. Then the next bullet, having them just make different vocabulary lists. They could do this for some of the words that you're going over, and they could add images and examples of vocabulary. We're going to talk a little bit more about how that can look and how you could add graphic organizers. So there's a way that you can actually upload a picture and make it part of the background so that the kids can't change it, and then you're able to have them write on it. And so we'll look at some templates that I have uploaded for graphic organizers. And then, believe it or not, you can use the Google Slides to make storybooks. They can actually create comics, they can have a reflection journal, choose your own adventure. Each of these is hyperlinked to some examples of what that could look like. So the storybooks one is really cute. I'm going to pull that up. So this was created by this person who's a technology integrationist. And so he just has a template that he shows you how the kids could just add their own pictures and add the text. So he created one called My Pickup Has Hiccups. And when you publish it so that it's in presentation mode, like this link that we're looking at, I'm not able to click on the slides anymore. Now I'm able to play it. And when I'm playing it, it's like a book, the way it's kind of going through the pictures and all the information. So that's a fun way that the kids could easily create a story. The comic strips I'll get to. I actually created my own comic strip following, following the format where you just create a table in the slide, and then the kids can look for pictures and then they can add things. So I was goofing around and I added this cat who says, want to play jump out of the bowl? And the fish says, I'm not so sure that's a good idea. And then the cat says, well, how about if we play explore my belly? So this is something cute where the kids could be working together on a comic strip, and they could be doing this with, a story or a skill that they're working on with language and literacy. So I'm going to go back. The reflection journal, I also have a link in the document that takes you to slide 21. This is a template. If you look in the notes too, all the links to where I got the templates are below. So you should be able to see those, and I'll make sure you have access to that. So this is the front slide of just the journal. And then on the next slide, this is an example of how it looks like notebook paper. So the kids could add more slides and they could have different responses to something that you're working on, which is really fun. And what's neat too is they can add, slides together, and they can add comments to each other on the slides. Another fun one, so this is an example of a choose your own adventure where, again, you can use hyperlinks, and the hyperlinks can connect to other slides. So you could actually have it set up where they can pick, kind of like the water cycle one where we were looking at. They can click where in the diagram they want to go. And in this case, they can click where in the adventure they want to go. Let's see, I see a question. Where did the students complete the work? I'm not sure, Maria, where you're asking about that. Do you mean as far as this might have been from one of the other slides we were looking at, but maybe you can add more to your question. And yes, the HyperDoc would absolutely work for remote learning for kindergarten, assuming your students have access to that document. You could share it with them through a format like Class Dojo or in Google Classroom. You could email it out to them. As long as they have access to be able to see it, they could go through the materials on their own. For the kindergartners. So where do they complete the work? It said that they were using Class Dojo. And with the graphic organizer, I'm guessing that maybe the teacher would send them a paper version that they would be doing, or that's something that the teacher would have to explain what those directions are. Maybe they could record their voice telling that. The one we were looking at, the teacher was actually just designing, but the student teacher, she didn't actually use it with the students. So I don't know that she had all of those parts set up, but that's just an example of what it could look like. So this choose your own adventure is really cute. So it has where you can decide basically like what's going to happen on the Dragon Quest. And so you can click continue. You can decide here. So what happens with the supplies? Do the peddlers go for supplies or they go without supplies? So anyway, this is something fun where you can either create one as a teacher and have the kids go through it and get them excited about a story, or you can teach the kids how to make their own choose your adventure and how to hyperlink it so that it goes in different places. In my presentation, I have a link to a blog post where a teacher walks you through exactly how he taught the students to write the story, where there's just different pathways of how it could be resolved. And then they can create a Google slide presentation similar to this one, where the links will take you, depending on what choice you make, to that part of the story. This is really, really a cool way that you could create a story with a Google slide and have the kids, take either the control of what happens in the story, or they make their own story, if that makes sense, with the different pathways. So going back, another thing that you might not have seen before is animations. You can actually have the kids take each slide and add pictures, and they can create a ton of slides where they slowly make movements to the pictures. And as they make the movements, then when we go to present the slides, we can actually set it up with a timer and watch it make an animation, which is really fun. So that's a neat activity, very creative, and it can connect to whatever you're teaching. And then drag and drop assessment. That's another thing that you can do, where you create a slide that has a template, and it has something that the kids can actually drag or move around on the screen, and then set it down and drop it in a specific place. And I will show you some examples of how that works and how you set it up. So those are some strategies that you might do with your slides. So screencasting, I mentioned that screencasting is a great tool, especially if you're working in an online setting where you're giving the kids a lot of resources and you're uploading those to a space, whether it's a Google Classroom, sending them through Dojo, Seesaw, or whatever tool, whatever place that you're using to house all the information. This is a way that you can provide videos to them. You could even have your own, YouTube, a private YouTube channel where you have the videos too. So on the left side is an example or the directions of what you actually do to create your Screencastify. Now Screencastify is an add-in, and so you do have to download it to your extensions, and it's not free. There's free features, but there are more sophisticated features that you have to pay for. And I think they're doing something right now for educators where you can get a little bit more time, because the free one only allows like 5 minutes. And then now they're doing something where if you have an educational email, you can sign up and you can record, I think, like up to 30 minutes or something like that. So that's an option. If you look at my screen on my browser on the upper right corner, This is the Screencastify video recorder extension. So what I did was I went to my Google settings, and you can find that by clicking on the little dots. Are you able to see my screen right now? I want to make sure I'm showing the right thing.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So if I click on settings for Chrome, so I'm in the Chrome browser. So you actually have to be working in Chrome, not in Safari. I actually have a MacBook, but I have the Chrome app or the extension. So you go to this area called extensions. And this is where you can see all the different extensions you have, and you can add extensions. So I have my Screencastify. I can set it up with all the things I want to allow it to do. And then once I've done that, it will show up in my upper right-hand corner. So if I click on it, which it might be slow, let's see. So as you can see right now, I have the free account. So I only have a 5-minute limit per video. I don't use Screencastify very frequently because I have Camtasia on my computer. So I use Camtasia to record my screen. But this is great because for free, I could record some 5-minute videos and not have to even upgrade if I wanted to. Now you can tell it if you just want it to record like what's on your screen on the computer, or if you're looking specifically in a browser, like if I'm looking at this tab and I wanted to record it, and I can actually record what my mouse is doing. I can record just my screen, or I can record with my voice. So I could be doing this as I'm going through my Google Slides, and I could be talking and projecting the slides and then record it. And so that's how you do it. You also there's drawing tools, which you have to allow it whatever you want. So you can annotate on your slides as you're talking and kind of play around with that. So let's see if it showed up, the drawing tools. Drawing tools are unavailable, figures. That's okay. Maybe I don't have that pop-up enabled right now. Like I said, I actually use another tool within my computer, but great tool that you could use for free. You can look into the options of what, if you want to be able to do a lot more with it and have those features, you could potentially pay for it. So I'm going to go back to the screencasting, and let's look at an example of what this looks like. I found this kindergarten place value lesson. Can you hear it when I play it? Sometimes I have to change that setting.
Yeah, we heard it.
Yes,
You can hear it. Okay, I'm going to make it full screen. We won't watch the whole thing.
Teaching a lesson today on place value. So we've got to start to know what place value is. A place value is what we actually use to determine the value of a number.
I'm going to kind of jump to another part.
4, 5, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 ones. And same with 5. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got.
Okay, so you get the idea. I don't think you need a lesson on place value, but you can see how the slides have the content, and now the teacher is actually teaching the content, and this video could be something that's available to the students after the lesson. So that's a great way that they can get a reteach if they need to review the material again. It's also a great way that they could just get the lesson without needing to meet with you live. So let's say you have a live oh my goodness, my brain. You have a live Zoom session, a synchronous session is what I was thinking, a Zinc session with the students on, Tuesday. So maybe on Sunday you provide this video so that they can review the material. And then when you meet through the Zoom session, you give them a little bit more practice, and that's when you're there to answer questions and to do some practice things together. And this kind of gave them a sneak peek of the vocabulary and of the content. So that's a strategy you could have. Or like I said, maybe you go through the material with them first, and then you have this as a follow-up that they can review later. It also could work for, let's say you have some kids who just are not able to join the live session. Maybe their parents are working during the day still, and they don't have access to a device until the evening. Maybe they don't have good Wi-Fi and they have to actually go somewhere to be able to connect. They would be able to at least download the videos or at least view them when they're in a place that has a hotspot, so they could still stay connected with what's happening in the classroom even if they're not there. There's a ton of apps for screencasting. I would say I would look just through the App Store and see what some of the prices are, because I don't even know all of them. I know there's a bunch though, and a lot of them are not free. So I would explore that, but I know that this one works really well with the Chrome browser, and you can, I believe, do this on the iPad with, if you have the Chrome browser, I think you can still have the extension, but I haven't tinkered with it on that. So that's a good question. Maybe other people in the chat have some suggestions if they've used screencasting tools, and that's something we can chat a little bit more about. So moving into screencasting, I'm going to go to my next slide, which I was blown away. I did not even know teachers were doing this until recently. So teachers are taking their Bitmoji and they're making slides, and they're actually adding like these really fun backgrounds, and they're making it where their Bitmoji character is almost, they can make it animation where they're moving around on the slide. So they make a screencast where they have themselves talking and they have this cute little character on the screen. I watched a video, so if you look on the little whiteboard, there's a link to this website, and I was watching this video about how you can set it up where you have a couch in the background and a bookshelf and make it really cute. You can even put in pets and things like that. So the way that I did this one, and again, the videos are there just to help you to figure out how to do one of your own, is so you can go to, in the actual slides, I go to insert and I go to image, and I can upload from the computer. I can search the web, and this is really cool. So if you go to search the web, you can actually do a search right here in Google Slides. So I don't have to open another tab, and I can search for things. So if I wanted to look for a teacher desk, I can just hit desk, and now look at these great images that come up. One of the tricks that the video shows you is you want to do transparent background desk. There are ways that we can remove the background too, which is pretty fancy, but it's easy if you just do a quick search. So I can click on a desk, and I can bring that desk into my slide, and I can make it the size I want. Now, I'm going to tell you, it does take a long time to make it perfect. It's a lot because you're like basically making this whole creation. But once you have it, you could create a few templates and copy them and paste them. And it's just a really fun way to make it more personal and engaging for the kids. So that was kind of how I added some of these. I added the chalkboard, and I added a little desk. Now to get my Bitmoji, that was another extension. So again, if you look in my upper right corner here, I just added the Bitmoji extension. And now, instead of having to do this on just my cell phone, I was able to find my Bitmoji, and I just did a search. And one of the tricks she shows you is if you just look up the word pose, you can find your Bitmoji kind of doing some generic things where there's not words. She does show you too, if there's one that has words, how to take the words off and make it do what you want. But I'm going to just pick this little Bitmoji that's clapping, and then I'm going to go into my slides and try to paste it. Oops, that didn't work. Let's try again. I just drag it this time, actually. And there she is. She's clapping. And I can move her around. So if I wanted to change her from the waving one and put the clapping one, then I could have her right there. So that's just something fun that you could do if you're making a screencast. Your first slide could have you could put content on the board. So I have a teacher friend who uses this whiteboard too, similar, and puts a bulleted list with hyperlinks of some of the things that the kids will be doing. So I'm going to switch. I liked my happy waving emoji, so I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to take this table off, or desk, because I don't think I need it right now. But that's how you could play around with a virtual Bitmoji background. So pretty cool, fun way to get the kids engaged. I'll go back to present mode. So we talked about, so main purpose that we are familiar with for Google Slides is to share content. So similar to the hyperdoc we looked at, I just was showing how an example of how with little kids, I might have some videos. I can embed a video directly into the slides. So what I did for this example was I have one of my favorite books, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. So I have a version of it in the video where the text is being read aloud. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So what's nice about this format is it's actually showing the pages of the book so that the kids could be reading along.
I'm the bus driver. Listen, I've got
So I'm going to go to another page. So you can see how it's actually reading it like as if it's a real book. Then I found this other version of the story where it's animated kind of like a cartoon.
Oh, and remember, don't let the pigeon drive the bus.
And then this, what's really fun is the author and illustrator has been doing live recordings of how to draw the characters and some of the comics and whatnot. So he calls them like his daily doodles or something, lunch doodles. So I found a video of him from his lunch doodle where he's doodling the pigeon. And you can follow along with him. So that's just something I could easily have in a space like Google Classroom, or I could share it through Class Dojo or whatever platform I use to communicate and share things with the students. And my presentation could have some of these things. And then maybe we're going to do an activity where we're going to talk more about the story that they read and some of the activities they did. For an upper grade level, this is an example I had created before and shared in another presentation that I did for professional development in the spring. So with upper grades, maybe you have where you're teaching them about the microscopes. And so I have some videos that talk to them about what a microscope is, what it does. If you look to the right, I have a link here to News ELA, which is a great free website that you can look up different topics and it will generate articles about them, and you can actually level the articles based on what the kids' reading level is. So I created an account and the kids could go there and read an article. I also hyperlinked an article through National Geographic. So this is just an article about microscopes that they could read and learn a little bit more. And some of these are free and some of these are not. So it's down below here. What I liked about this article is that it has the words hyperlinked, vocabulary words underlined and hyperlinked so that when you click over them or hover, it will tell you the definition. I don't know that it pronounces them for you, which would be really nice. But it does have a little listing of all the vocabulary. So again, it's kind of like using it in hyperdoc format. And then what I thought was really fun is this virtual lab where you can go to BrainPop, and some things on BrainPop you have to pay for, but this one I found for free. And I don't know if my hyperlink's gone, but if you were to go to BrainPop and look it up, because I think my hyperlink somehow isn't working, it gives you a simulation where it's actually walking you through and the kids have to click on things and play the game as if they're working with a microscope. So that's an example of how we could create the hyperdoc, make it really interactive, and we could be doing this again in a live session where I'm walking them through it and then having them do some stuff, or I could be sharing this with them outside of the live session. So those are some just ways that I might provide like the content and share that content with the students. I can embed videos. So if I go to insert, can you see my toolbox? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in my toolbox, I have the ability to add videos directly, and I can just put a specific video that I already looked up on YouTube, or I can do a search. So I can add this URL, or I can say like, oh, you know, I was doing microscopes. And obviously you want to preview the videos before you just add them to make sure they're appropriate for the kids and they're on their level. but you could just add a video right from YouTube. You could also, if you created your own video, so let's say you made a screencast on another presentation where you talk all about the microscopes or something, you could look in your drive, your Google Drive for that video, and then you could attach your own video. So that's one option of some media that you can add. You can also do audio. So audio is pretty cool. I can look up audio that I already recorded. So again, with screencasting or with a recording feature, you can just record your voice instead of recording like the screen and everything. And then you can add those sound clips inside, like we saw in the kindergarten one where there were sound clips. So that's something cool. If you look to, just to show you down here, there's this comment feature. So I can also add comments where I say like to the kids a little note, and they would be able to see it on their screen. So I could say like, be sure to read the News ELA article today or something, or make sure you read it by Tuesday. So that's something else I can do. All right, so now let's move into some fun templates. And now all of these templates I did not create from scratch. I want to emphasize that there are so many resources out there that are already created, and they give you permission to use them. So you don't have to go to Teachers Pay Teachers and buy one. There are a lot that are just free that people are willing to share. And so I have links again at the bottom of each one where I got these. Now these are just an example of a slide, but if you download the template, it will give you a whole presentation. So what would happen is these different links, similar to Jeopardy, when you click on a specific box, it will take you to another slide where the question is. So let's look at an example of how this works. If I have this template and I have another template, another slide that has like the $200 box, I can go to link, oops, sorry, I think it has a little link in there. I can go to insert, link. Now my link can go to an actual external link, like a website, but my link can just go to a slide in the presentation. So I could actually click on different slides and have it go to that specific slide where I want the $200 question. And that's the same with like the choose your own adventure or the quiz format. I can have multiple slides. So let's say I have a quiz question 1 is on slide 2, and slide 1 is the answer, then I can have those go back and forth to one another. So that's how you do that. You just link a slide within a slide, if that makes sense. So if you download the template, it's already done that for you. Everything's linked, and it has all of the examples of the questions, and then you just add your questions. You can also change the topics. So you could easily have a little game where you're on the Zoom call and you're reviewing something. And this is just a fun way that you could be informally assessing the kids. Maybe you're reviewing for a test. It's pretty open-ended what you would do with this. It's not going to give you their answers. It's just a way for you to review the material and to talk about it together. And again, this is just by adding a special template to your slides. Another example, so this is a template that was created for the vocabulary Freyer model. So the Freyer model is where you have a word in the center, and then the kids have to fill out a definition in their own language. They put some characteristics for what helps them with remembering the word, some non-examples of how the word might not really be used, and then some examples. So what happened to do this is they created the slide and they set it as a theme for the background so that it was already there. And now the kids can't change anything that's on there, but they can fill in the boxes. So I could actually give this to them, let's say through Google Classroom, I share my slide with them, and they could go ahead and they could add a slide and they could put their name on it and they could add information. It could be something that they turn in back to me. It'd be something where each kid can add a slide. Everyone in the class could each have their own slide and their own vocabulary word. And it will show me who's worked on what part of the slides. So I could put a comment and say, this one is for the A group, and then make a comment and say, this one's for the B group, and have duplicates of this particular slide. So that's using a graphic organizer. Another one that's similar, this is a math one where the kids have to solve the math problem and show their strategies and show different ways that they could solve it, and then come up with their own way that they could write a story about the problem. So that's a fun one. This next slide is a template for if they're making questions to answer something, so they kind of work across to say like what did, and then add the questions. You know, you have to think about like ways you might be using this, and I could actually change, you know, that it's a question template, and I could make it anything else I want now that I have these boxes and I can type in them. But the idea is that you could give the kids this slide and they could add different things to it, so they could work through something. The vocabulary one I mentioned earlier, this is a template for where you just already have this part as a model, and then on the following slides, the kids go through and they have their word, and they have to add the definition, they have to say it in their own language, kid-friendly language, add some other words that remind them or help them understand what the word means. So related words like for ingredient, cooking, recipe, piece, element, and then using it in a sentence. And what's kind of nice about this model is if you look on the top right, it has a little self-assessment piece. So we could ask the students to move the circle with how they feel about their understanding. Oops, I think I moved the wrong thing. So that's a template where they could all add different slides and work together. And then we could review what their definitions were and talk about the words for a story that we're reading, or for, you know, science or social studies content that we're looking at. Another one, so this one is for math. So I have a few examples of how you might want to just kind of copy a template, because making fractions can be tricky using the number tools. So this one you can copy and paste it, and you can actually just make your own little fractions if you were doing an activity with fractions. I loved this one. I thought this one was really neat. So you could have the kids make their own numbers, and you could have them fill in the blocks with what the number is. So they could decide if it's going to be a 3-digit or a 4-digit number. So this one was 0,000, so it's a 3-digit. For the word form, they could type it out, or what this one did, which I liked, is they actually just took a picture of writing it out with their handwriting. Then they did the different forms. The base 10 blocks, I'm guessing for this one, they just looked up pictures on Google, or maybe they could do it right here like I showed you, where they can go to image and do a search the web, and it'll come up right here on the slides. And then another example I saw, they had embedded a video. So they went to insert video, and they had a video of someone saying the number out loud. So that's another really cool thing that they could do. This one's kind of fun. This one was for social studies. They were learning about different people in history. So they could make a fake Twitter page and a tweet. So this one, it had some weird tweets. I think the example was actually made by a kid, and it didn't really make sense. So I don't have any tweets on here, but you could easily just have it blank and have the kid, they add the picture on the template. So you can see it was just a little gray box. And then they can put the pictures and the names of like who they're following, and then they can add some pretend tweets. And obviously their tweets, you would give them some directions of, you know, maybe your tweet should include some actual historical events and facts that relate to your person, so that I know that you read about the person and you found out some information. And each kid could have a different person that they're sharing about. So it could be kind of a fun thing where there's multiple slides and different Twitter accounts where we're looking, and maybe we would even see, we could partner them up and we could see dialogue between two different people, historical figures talking to each other. Like if you look on here, it has Maya Angelou, Louis Armstrong, Thurgood Marshall. So maybe you have a conversation where they're talking to each other and we see their tweets. So that's kind of a fun way that we could actually get them learning about some facts, maybe pulling from a nonfiction text, and then having to do some writing. But think about how much more fun this is than having to just write an essay or something. The next slide is my comic strip. So I just follow the directions that were on the template example for just creating a table. Oops, sorry. So I went to insert, and I went to, let's see, table, and then you can make it as many frames as you want. So I did 3, but you could easily do 4. Wow, my screen's very sensitive. When I clicked on it, see if it will do it. No, it keeps jumping. Sorry, I don't know why it's jumping like that. I was able to go to the features for the background of the table, and I made it that black color, but you could make it another color. And then the way that I did the little bubbles is I just went to insert shape and the call outs. You can pick some of these call outs that they already have. And then for the picture, I just did the same thing where I did insert for an image from the web. And I looked for transparent backgrounds. So I had just looked up for a transparent cat. I think this is where I got the cat, somewhere on here. So you can pick, whatever your character is and have them writing and talking. This is an activity for English language learners where they could practice, just with dialogue and being able to speak in the language and to have people talking. So that's kind of a fun thing. It could also be like, remember we were looking at Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. We could have where we create one with the pigeon and different things that the pigeon might say. So something to make a connection to literature and what we're reading. And it's just a fun way to promote creativity. We looked at this journal. So this was just the journal prompt where the kids could practice writing. You could have different topics or things that they're supposed to fill out. They could add to their journal every week or add to their journal after something's finished that they learned about. And, it's a digital journal. So it's kind of fun because at the end, they'll have multiple slides that could have, the culmination of all the things they learned. This one, I thought it's a little busy. I don't know if this is really good for like young children. You could change it up a little bit, but this was just an example of a menu, like where you give the kids some options of activities that they're working on. So this teacher had a project where the kids could decide if they wanted to use Google Slides or Google Drawings, and they were having to make something. So that was their entree, their main creation. Then they had some little appetizers, and these were all hyperlinked to the different places and things that they could do. And obviously there's some more directions that the teacher provided about what it is that they were doing. Again, you could change it. So you could take this template and then you could like make it a little bit more simplified. It's really up to you, but it's kind of a fun way to think about giving the kids some choices of what they might do to show their learning for something you're working on. And then the drag and drop. So the drag and drop is really cool. The drag and drop is where you can create an interactive template on Google and have the kids move things around. So if you look at this example video, I'm going to just show a little snippet of it. Let's see. Let's go to present. Oops. I don't know why it just likes to jump to the next slide.
Today I'm going to show you how to make drag slides.
So I'm going to just kind of jump to the good stuff.
This is going to stay in the background where the kids can't move it and click around. So let me find.
Can you hear it okay?
Earlier, real quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sorry. Hang on. Okay, we can just use this one. Okay, so this is going to be our backdrop. Okay, I'm going to double click because I want to crop it. I don't want this word right here. And I'm going to go ahead and take these words out as well. Okay, so once I finish cropping it, I'll just click outside that box. I want to make it a little bigger. Okay, so this is how I would like my slide to look. I'm going to title it Flower Diagram Template. And then I'm going to go File, Download as a JPEG, and it's going to pop down here on the bottom.
So what she's doing is making it so that the kids can't delete it.
So again, I'm going to type in slides.new. and it will give me a blank slate.
That was a new trick I didn't know either. Slides.new will just take you to a new presentation.
This, our drag and drop slide. We're going to right click here and we're going to click change background. Instead of picking the color, we're going to click choose image. Okay, so we have ours here. It says I can just drag it. So I have it downloaded here. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag the one that we just made. Click done. Now this is something that the kids can't move around or change. Okay, so now I want to make just a text box. I'm going to go ahead and make sure it has a border on it so they know where it is, some things that you can do for your students in your Google Classroom.
So you could watch the video actually navigates you through different ways that you can change the background of your presentation, and then you can add different words that they can move and drag and drop. The one on the right was more for like a younger grade level, kindergarten, younger students, where the kids could move the apples and practice counting the apples. So they show you exactly what to do to create that background where it's an image that they can't change. And of course, there's always kids that can figure out how to change it. It's not a perfect thing, but it's, you know, if you had something that you want them to work on and submit to you for a grade, then you would just explain to them that they should not be changing it, because then they won't get, you know, their points for showing you what they should be doing. So let's look at examples of what this drag and drop looks like. It's pretty cool. I'm going to make my slideshow smaller and look at there's hundreds, tens, and ones. So again, this is not, I did not make this. There's a ton of resources out there. What we have here is our place value chart, and we have the different tools, the place value blocks. Now I can make a number, and if I keep dragging them, there's a bunch of them on this page. So I actually can keep making a number with multiple hundreds and they don't disappear. I could also move some tens. So you could be on a call, you know, maybe you're one-on-one on a call with the student, maybe you're with a small group, if you're, you know, online, or maybe you just have them do some practice where they're going to create a few slides using this template and they're going to make some numbers for you. So this is a great way for them to practice where they don't have to like go out into the web and look for pictures. It's already all set up, and literally it's the drag and drop concept where they're dragging it and they're dropping it. We could be doing it together where I have the kids tell me what number I'm doing. Maybe I'm predicting it and they're helping me make numbers, or I could allow them to go into this and they could be making numbers. We could be doing it where we share a screen, or again, it could be a practice thing that they do outside of a live session. So that's a really awesome drag and drop for math. This next one, there was a series in this template of, it was related to Dr. Seuss Week, and they were looking at the book One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, and having some different sorting activities, just getting the kids familiar with being able to look at different features of the fish. So looking at if they had more than one fish, or looking at the sizes of the fish. So there was a few different templates that teacher created for the back, where it said either a color and a number, or it said the sizes and the number. So I just picked this one. So we're looking at if it's a red fish or if it has one fish. So then I can drag, now this one only has one of each. So I can drag the red fish, and obviously if it's not red, it's going to go here. And then thinking about what I just did, since that says one, technically where should the one go? That should go here, right? Because it fits into both categories. It's red and one. And then this is red, but it's two. So the kids could practice sorting out. Now, obviously that doesn't go there, right? Because that doesn't go there, doesn't go here. So that one technically doesn't go anywhere. This one is one, but it's not red. I love this guy. He looked really grumpy. And so these you can just, again, you can upload through adding an image and searching from the web. And if you look up transparent fish, And I think I looked up, because I used the template, but sometimes the pictures were, I wanted to change them. So I just went to transparent, and I think I went to clip art fish or something like that, colorful fish. That's where I got this one. Some of them I think I did the color, like transparent red clip art fish. And there's that red guy. So if you follow the directions in that video where you create the background image and you set it so then it can't be changed, which is up here in the background, you go to background and choose your image, then you can add whatever it is. So that's where the Venn diagram came from. And then once you have it set, the kids usually won't, hopefully be changing that part unless they're just really smart and creative, and they do, and you have to talk to them about the expectations. But it's just an activity that you could do to have them practice sorting. Another fun one, the 10 frame. You've probably seen this in classrooms where you have the kids practice counting and making numbers. I don't know why it's not moving to the front. Let's see. Sometimes you have to play too with the order of them and arrange them. So it should kind of come up like this. Now, I think I'm going to have to do that each time because I don't think it's set up properly here. But you could have them counting and then writing the math problem here where you have a text box. So again, already created. I can copy that into my presentation. This was a fun one if you were having the kids kind of like those magnetic poetry things that you see on a fridge. You could have them practice putting them together and make a word. You'd have another slide where they actually have to come up with their poem, putting all the words together. And then this one I thought was neat too. This is another sorting one similar to the fish, where you could have them sort by color. So they could sort all the blue circles and all the yellow shapes. And they're just kind of all on the outskirts. Oops, sorry, it jumped again. So I could practice sorting by color, or we could have them sort by what shape it is. So instead of doing the colors, we could have them put all the triangles together and all the circles together. And again, they're able to drag and drop, and they're able to manipulate what's on the screen because we have it already set up for them. This is a good one for older kids where they're practicing battleship coordinates, where they're looking at the coordinates on a grid. And so they can move the ships in different places, and they can play the game. Oops, I don't know why it's not showing up at the front. Again, I think it's because I copied these into my presentation. So sometimes you have to play with making sure that they're in the front when you move them to your pictures. But then they can move these little guys. Let me go to presentation mode here. And they can mark their coordinates. Oh, it doesn't like me. I don't know why it's not dragging and dropping like it's supposed to. I was playing with it earlier and it was working. Oh, okay, it is working. They're just not in the front, so they're behind the picture. I could easily just move this picture and order it to go backwards. So then that maybe will solve the problem. Let's see. Yeah. So the kids could make different coordinates and they could play the game. Oh, the red ones didn't work properly. Let's see. So that could be a game that they could be doing. Again, they could be doing this in a live session, or they could be kind of practicing their coordinates, and they could show me some different ways that they can move the ship around and tell me what the coordinates are for the X and Y. Then I told you about stop motion animation is really neat, where they can add several slides and a picture and have it move. So if we look at this example,
I have a slide here I've already made. It's got a nice background with
can you hear the
flowers.
volume?
I have an image also. It's a PNG
Yes.
clip art.
Great.
PNG means it has a transparent background, so there is no background. Over here I have a GIF. I'm going to click on the slide to duplicate it. On a Chromebook, it's Control D. On a MacBook, it's Command D. Click on the image that you want to advance and advance it slightly. On the GIF, I'm going to advance it a little bit to the left. Go back to the slide you were just working on. Control D on a Chromebook, Command D on a MacBook duplicates the slide and advance the images slightly in the direction that you want them to go.
So I'm just curious, how many of you knew that it could do this? Has anyone seen this before? It's pretty cool.
No, I haven't seen that before.
So it's a really neat way that they can make something come to life, and it's kind of teaching them problem solving, and stop motion animation is almost like coding, where they're having to practice making slight changes to something to make it all come together. So she also shows you in the video how when you go to publish it, it will have a time speed, and that way when you go to play it, it plays on its own. So here's what it looks like. Let's see if I have, she changed it to 75, and then
just hit enter and your animation will begin.
So that is what the kids could do to create an animation. Now this one is just amazing to see a bunch of people work together that were really techie, and they made this one. So I'm going to show you it. You can see what could really happen. This is kind of a fast motion of what the process was to make it. So they had 450 slides to make it. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty neat because it's not any like really challenging software like they say. It's just the Google Slides that the kids can make their own animations, and it's something that they would really enjoy. So that's an example.
Can you hear me? I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so and there were a couple questions in the chat that were the same. But
oh yeah, thank you. Let me take a look.
If you go back to the drag and drop, how is it like one thing and then an unlimited amount, like for the tens and ones spot, where it was unlimited to put?
I don't think it's unlimited. I think they just put like 100 of them in there.
Oh, like right on top of each other?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and then we would just use that template for whatever, and then like send it to the kids, or?
Exactly, you could send it to the kids, or you could have it posted somewhere. You could have it, if you were doing it together in a real classroom, you could have it set up on their devices.
And then would they make a copy, like save as?
Exactly.
Okay.
They could make a copy, or you could just have them each make their own slide.
Okay.
And in Google Classroom, you could assign it to them where they each have their own presentation that they submit back through Google Classroom, so they don't really have to do anything except how you assigned it. Then they would see it again. They would fill it out, and you would see it in Google Classroom already done.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And let me see, I'm looking through these questions because like I said, it's hard for me to see all of them at the same time. So let's see. On MacBook, can you only access your Bitmoji if you have Google Chrome? That's how I was able to get the extension for it. The only way I've been able to access it on my MacBook is like if I text myself my Bitmoji and I copy it that way. I'm not sure if there's another way that you can download the app on your MacBook. It's a good question. Where do we get the templates? If you do a search, there's several really amazing teachers that post them. So you can look up Google Slides search. I have like all the templates in my presentation. I have the links for that you can get, but you can easily search for something. So I could just search, you know, I'm thinking about like, is there a Jeopardy Google Slides template? Chances are there is, and you can find it. And then some of them, you know, once you see how they're made, you could easily make your own too. But that's how I found them, is I just did some Google searching. You find some specific spaces where they have a lot of templates posted, and I put some in the references too, or the resources. But on this presentation, they're all on the bottom. Let's see, there's a question about, in order for students to interact and fill in the boxes, do we have to share the slides with them and then they follow along with you? So, okay, if you were doing this through a Zoom session, then they would be doing it on their own screen. So they would have to know to toggle out of the full screen so that they're not seeing what's on your screen, and they could do it on their own screen. So if you're doing like the drag and drop, what I would do is have them create their own slide on your presentation, and then they could be working on it, and you could be looking at your screen to see what they're doing if you're doing it live, or you assign it to them like in Google Classroom, or you could even just share the link with them through Class Dojo or one of those platforms, and then they could go ahead and add their slides, or they could make a copy of the presentation and make their own presentation with that slide template already set up and share it with you. So you would have to make sure you share it with them, or you could be doing it, like I said, on your own screen where you're sharing it, and just the kids could be telling you kind of what to do, and maybe they could have the annotation tool on their screen so they could be highlighting stuff that they want you to move. It really depends on how savvy your kids are, your students, with the technology that they're looking at, with, you know, all the different tools, being able to go back and forth on the screens. That might be a lot if they're really young kids. So, you know, these are just different ways that you would have to explore what they're able to do so that they could kind of play with the slides. If you were in a school without being in an online setting, like I said, you could just kind of have it open on their device and have them practice some work, you know, during the work period too. So how do you make it where they can't change the background? The video does show you, and basically what you do, I'm going to exit presentation mode, is you decide whatever it is you want. So I could do a search for, let's go to insert image, upload from the computer. I could look for a worksheet that had something, then I could create a screenshot of it, or I could go to insert image and search the web. So for example, they had the plant diagram. Oh my goodness, why does it do that to me? Let's see, insert image. So here's like a plant diagram. Obviously we'd be looking for like a blank one. I could pick one. And what they did in the video is they actually had two presentations. They had one that they were playing around and getting the picture how they wanted, and then they saved that slide as a picture. So they went to download, and they downloaded just that particular slide as a ping image. And then once they had it how they wanted it, they went to background and they uploaded that image. And once it's in the background, then it's not, you're not able to move it around because it's the background. So for, you know, my background here, I can't move any of these graphics. So that's what they did. And you could do that either within your presentation, or you could create it in another one and then embed the image that you saved from your presentation, if that makes sense. So you can make your own backgrounds through Google Slides, and you can just pull from Google Slides from the internet what's out there. So let's see if I got that question. Is there a way to make the background into an image, then reinsert the image as a background? Yes, you can change it back and forth however you want it in that background menu. For the drag and drop, do they need the slides beforehand? So you could set it up and then share that with them, and it will already have all the pieces to drag and drop. What can we do so the kids can't delete anything on your slide? So if it's the background, then they won't be able to delete the background unless they know specifically where to go and change it. But what I would do is you can set it up so that they can just make a copy of it. And that way they're not changing your original. So they can go to File, make a copy. You can teach them how to do that with a specific slide, or you assign them each one slide, like you're number 29. And so you're only going to be changing 29. And I can look in my editing. So if I go to, I think it's comment history. Right here, if I go to history of the file, I think that's the viewing one, but somewhere in here, maybe that's the sharing. There's a way that I can look up who's been working on what slide, and it will show me. I can't remember where it is in Google Slides. It's different from where it is, oh, version history. So I can go to see version history, and this should show me everything that's been changed. And if I had more than one person making changes, it would save their names, like how my name shows up. So I can just kind of look back and see what was going on in the different versions. And I would know if one kid was going in and changing everything in my presentation. So that's one thing. Again, you have to explain your expectations to the kids so they know what they are allowed to change and what they shouldn't be changing in the presentation. So I think I answered a lot of those drag and drop questions, I hope. If I missed something, let me know. And someone says, does anyone know how kids can have access to the slides I make and use during a Zoom teaching? So that would be where you give them the link and they have to either look at your screen while you're sharing, or they're on their own screen. So it can be complicated. You have to teach them each step a little at a time. You can't do all of this at once, but lots of really cool ways that they can do this. Are there any other questions about the extensions or anything? The hyperdocs? I think there's a question about extensions, and I can show you that. So for the extensions, so it's interesting because there's two things. There's something called an extension and there's something called an add-on. So an extension is where I'm in Chrome. This is my browser, and I'm actually going to my Chrome settings. And then it shows up, and I can look for different things that I want to add. So like the Bitmoji, for example. Oops. And I already have that one. You can also do searches for specific things. So that's where I went to change my settings and add the different extensions. The next step we're going to talk about is add-ons, which is different. So I'm going to close out. I have a lot of tabs open, and I think that might slow things down here. And if you have other questions, please jump on the mic if I missed them.
Can I just say something?
Yes, go for it.
I tried just now to do what you did on extensions. I'm in my settings on extensions, and I try to put screencast, and it says no search results. Do I have to buy this feature, or is it free?
It's free. Let me see. Maybe I'm telling you, maybe we're missing a step. I did a search also. So if I look in my next tab and I just look up Screencastify, it should come up where you can download the extension too. So it had right here where it says already installed. This is how I went to install it. But I think if you go to just the Chrome extension store, which is here, this Chrome web store, I think what we were looking at is once I had it downloaded, which is, I was showing you once I have it, I have to go to settings. But you're right, to actually find it, you have to be in this Chrome web store, and then you can search for whatever ones they have.
Okay, yeah, I was able to add it by going to Screencast.
Straight to that one. But this one is nice because if you wanted to look up other options, this is where you were trying to search and it wasn't coming up, and I was having the same problem. So here's another one, Screencast-O-Matic. And you could see if any of these are friendly on other devices, but I think this is just the Chrome version.
Okay, so this is for other extensions as well.
Correct. This is for any extension that you want to use with Chrome.
And is this Chrome, Google? What is that?
Chrome is the internet browser for Google.
Yeah, but what is this web? How did you get into this?
So I just did a search for the Chrome Web Store. I can put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
You find the chat. I have too many.
Okay, I got it.
Windows.
Thank you.
You found it already?
Thank you. So
sure,
any
you're welcome.
here you can add, yeah.
That was a good question. And let's see if I thought there was another question that I missed. But I lost the chat. Okay. HyperDoc be part of the background, or does that have to be placed on top of the background? So the HyperDoc, I think what you're asking is the HyperDoc can be anything, can be a HyperDoc where you add just links and resources and videos. The background piece, if you wanted it to actually be a drag and drop, is where you would change the background. So you could have a slide within a presentation that has HyperDoc resources, and then one particular slide where you change the background of that slide and the kids can move things around. Does that answer your question, Patty? Okay. So yes, thanks for reminding me about the chat, because I got sucked into the presentation and I missed a lot of questions. And it's actually a good stopping point, because we're getting ready to move into the add-ons piece. So it's good. We talked a lot about just things that you can do within Google Slides. So all of those things with the templates, those are a little bit easier, because you can just download the template and change it and do things right in Google Slides. The other thing is now they have connected some of the tools that used to be a third-party app, well, they still are a third-party app, but they used to be an app that you had to work in separately. Now you can add them on and work within Google Slides as well. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Before I jump into, we're going to look at Nearpod and we're going to look at PearDeck. But before I do show you those, here's some other examples of add-ons. So an add-on, and I think I have Screencastify here, but technically that's an extension. An add-on is where you can work in an application within the Google Slides. So if you're looking at my presentation and I go to, sorry, my screen has this update thing. Okay, if I go to add-ons, I can go to get add-ons. And it might take a moment to load, but I can actually look up different things that will work with slides. So for example, flat is one where if you're using music notes and you want to have the music notes written to write and compose music, you can use this add-on and it will allow you to do that. So I have some listed. This Grackle one will allow you to check your slides and make sure that it's accessible for students. Slido is if you wanted to just add polls and questions and answers. So there's a ton of them that you can add, and what happens when you add them, you can search right in this marketplace. It pops up right here. Then once you add them, they just show up in your menu. And when you click on them, it will open up a menu that works specifically with that add-on. So looking at my list, I have PearDeck, Nearpod. Slides Translator is a really awesome tool if you're working with English language learners and you want to be able to translate what's on your slide. Screencastify, we talked about, more of an extension piece where you'll be working with Chrome and recording what's on your screen. There's some where you can just automatically insert diagrams, math equations. If you want some more options of photos to work with. On the next slide, we have different players, like a music player, audio player. different toolboxes, if you want more colors and things to work with in your slides, if you're inserting a lot of citations and references. So these are all, the way you can get to all of these is you just go to add-ons, get add-ons, and you can look up a specific one. You can do a search in the different categories that they have. So like creativity, education, and it will show you what's available that kind of fits into that category. So it has a lot of choices that you can play with. You could really spend a long time just getting sucked into all the add-ons. So for this presentation, we are going to be looking at Nearpod and PearDeck. So on my next slide is an example of what happens with PearDeck, how you actually can make it work in Google Slides. So what I did is I went to add-ons, I added PearDeck. Now I'm going to open PearDeck. And it's going to pop up a menu. And I'm able to add specific things to my presentation to make it interactive. And it will automatically embed them into my presentation. And then when the students are watching my presentation, if they have the presentation open on their screen, they're going to see my slides and be able to do interactive things. So we're going to go through and practice with PearDeck. So what I'm going to have you do is you're going to go to PearDeck, to the website, and you're going to type in a code. I'm going to go to this slide that has this code, Dr. BIA or DRBIA. So to get to it, you're going to go to PearDeck. So I'm going to open my other tab that has PearDeck. And you're going to click on Join Session. So you're going to be logging in right now in the student mode. So you're seeing what it looks like as a student. So that means you're going to have to minimize the big screen, my screen, so that you can open up this other tab. And then you're going to put that code. So let me show you what that code was again. I'm going to make it big. So it's YMQEJ. So this is how you could do it if you were in a live session sharing it with the students. You could project it, you could email it to them. You could also just connect it directly with Google Classroom. So you're going to log into my live session.
Sorry, I couldn't log in. I just typed in, I'm exactly at the website you're in, YMQEJ.
Let me go into my teacher screen here. So this is what it looks like on my side where it tells me my sessions. It's telling me it's live. I'm going to click on it and see if people have logged in. Now what's nice about this, so we have 7 people connected, so maybe try it again. Maybe the code wasn't right.
Is it DRBIA?
Yes.
That's the code?
That's the code.
Yes.
Did it work this time?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'm just going to close this out for 1 second just to show you on my screen. If I were to go back to my teacher screen. So I have an option here. I just want to see my dashboard for a moment. I don't know what it will do to you. I'm sorry if you might have messed it up. Okay, it's because we're presenting. So I'll show you my dashboard after. That's okay. So on the presentation, I'm going to go to PearDeck. I'm going to go to a specific slide for you, which is the stretch break. So now you should see this on your screen. Do you see stretch break on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're right now looking at this in a live format where I'm controlling what's on the screen. So on my screen, if you can see both screens right now, I can see who's in the roster. So it's showing me I have 52 out of 54 students showing up. I can click on it, and since I made it where you had to log in, now I can see a list of everybody's name and Cal State Teach email address that they logged in with. So that's a quick way for me to check who's participating. I can add a prompt if I want to right now, where I give you something to do. If I notice that you're really quiet and I want to just add something, I can quickly put something in my presentation, even though it's already been created. So we're going to go to the next slide, and it says, let's see, it's showing me the responses. I'm going to hide responses. You should be able to answer the question. Let me go back to my presentation so I can see what my question was for you. What are strategies to promote collaboration online? So right now I have it set up where it's showing responses, so we can actually be looking at some of the different things. It shows what I put, it shows in real time. So people are saying, encouraging students to create a group slide where each one contributes, using games and quizzes, Google Slide Hyperdocs, Padlet. So this is a way that we could be easily collecting some answers from students and talking about it while we're looking at the screen. I can click show responses so you can see them too. So are they on your screen now?
Yes.
No.
I don't see any but mine.
Okay, let me try again.
Sometimes only the teacher can see all of them, right?
Yeah, I
maybe
only
it's-
see my answer. I
You
don't
only see
anybody
yours,
else's.
okay. Well, on my screen, I'm able to show it, so I can be projecting what you're writing, and I can star certain things, and I can sort them in a different kind of layout. So right now I'm showing it, can you see my screen?
I thought I wrote it right there.
Yes, we can see your screen, and then it shows everyone's responses on your presentation.
Perfect, but you can't see it on your screen.
Correct.
Okay, so I thought you would be able to see them too, but you can't. Now I can, just for the sake of time, I can lock your screen, which means you shouldn't be able to write anything else. And we can take a look at them together now on my screen. So we would be toggling a little bit. Now toggling is fine when you're on a computer. It can be really tricky when you're on a mobile device because you would have to be opening the different applications. So that's something, again, you'd have to explain to the students how to do. And that's why what you might decide to do with the presentation like this is to make it where the kids can go to it at their own pace and it's not live. So that's another option, and I'll show you in my teacher dashboard. I'm going to go ahead to the next slide. So we had some really great examples here, by the way, of ways that we can make it interactive, have the kids working together. I can star the different ones that I think I really want you to notice on my screen. Can you see how it highlights them? I can hide stuff if I don't think it's appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead to the next one, which is an example math one. And you should be able to move and drag and drop icons. So if we're doing it all together, we'd have to have some discussion of who should be doing their, let's say I want Sarah to just do the first problem, right? Because right now everybody's doing it at the same time. So I could specifically have one person do it so it shows on my screen, or you could individually be doing it for practice on your screen. And this one was just through their templates. It was already created. So I just used an example one, but you could easily make your own and modify it with what the kids can do with the drag and drop. We could show responses, but it's kind of hard here because there's just a bunch of people on this. I'm going to go to another one. This is an example where they would be able to draw the answer. This could be a really nice one for younger students. Circle the items that start with B. And you should be able to pick your color and your pin.
I have a question. Does this work with on the iPad? I assume yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's an app for PearDeck that you would have, that you could go in through the app. And you would join the session that way. So that's a great way. You could do it as a standalone activity where you have the kids go back and do it for an assessment. But we could also do one live in our presentation together. So these are just different ways you could do it. So I'm gonna go to another slide.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
A low-tech way to do this would it just be share a photo, like share screen, and then you just open up a photo of that exact one that you just had circling?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it's able to annotate.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, simultaneously you would have instead of drag and drop, you would have them circle. I work with kindergarten, and this would be a great one.
Yes, you could absolutely do
that. Instead of this app, I could just share screen and have them annotate on top of it.
Exactly. Now, what's nice about this app, though, is that it saves the answers. So you have your assessment data, which is really nice.
Yeah,
too.
I could also do screenshot.
You could, yeah. So it really just depends on what your kids can do and what they're comfortable with. But yeah, you could absolutely, there's a lot of workarounds where you could use the tools that it has, or you could just make it a little bit more simple where they don't have to log into it. Is it showing you the listen to the story on your screen?
She's pretty.
A question, do you have to actually set it for recording their answers, or does it automatically record?
But this one is longer.
Sorry, somebody else was talking over you. If we can mute the other mic. Can you ask your question once more for me?
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going on in the background. It was delayed at my end. My question was, do you have to specifically save the responses the students give, or will it automatically save it for you?
It automatically saves them. And I'll show you what that looks like when we go to my teacher dashboard.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'm just kind of showing you some examples. The next one should be the story map. So again, we could be talking about a story and we could be filling out this map together, or the kids could be filling it out. So you can take a moment and see what that looks like. Another is if we just wanted to check in with the students, kind of like a self-assessment, they could circle how they're feeling. Here's a more sophisticated version if we have older students, where they're dragging the dot to how they're feeling, and this allows me to see how the students are feeling too. Quick check-in with them. If I wanted to do almost like an exit ticket, I could have them reflecting about the activity and filling in the different boxes, what they liked, what they didn't like, what was hard.
Sorry, in this kind of activity, you need to type something. Where would it be for the users to type something? Because I only see like a big marker. How would I type something in here right now?
So this one is the whiteboard tool where you would be able to write. So it would be much easier if you had like a pencil on an iPad. I could easily change this one. So I will show you when I go back to my Google Slides, the question. That's just the type of question that it was a whiteboard. But I could use the same slide and change the type of question it was. So let me show you.
You can also tap the T too.
Yeah.
And it will give you text.
Did it show a text option?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let me go to my teacher menu for you. So if you can just take a look now on my screen that I'm sharing, I have my session is closed. Now I have this different view. So if I go to the different views, I can see what it looks like for you as a student. And I can go to specific slides and see if there's responses on the slides. So this is just one way I can go individually. And I think, let's see if it shows it here. Show responses. If I scroll down, it shows me 41 people didn't respond. If I click on them, it tells me your names. So where I might be concerned is who said they needed help. Now I'm showing you this, but this would be just for the teacher to see. The kids don't have to see this because I'm sharing my screen, obviously. But I could see kind of where each of you were and how you were feeling. I could go back to this one and see the responses. It's showing me individually your name and what you circled. Are you able to see this on your screen or what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't see it.
Real-time feedback. The other way I can get to it, if I go to exit annotation and I go back to sessions and I export to a spreadsheet. Takes a little bit of time. I can pull up some data this way too. So that's gonna take a moment. While that's loading, I'm gonna just show you when I was in my presentation, this is how I was changing the types of questions. So for that one question where we didn't see the text feature, I think it might have been this one. I don't remember which one it was. I can change it from a draw response to a text response. Do you see how I have the option? So I can edit it and make it where you actually just have to type in your answer, or I can make it where you have to draw the answer. So see, now it says write your response instead of draw your response. So I control what kind of question comes up on that slide, and then I can save it so that it saves in PearDeck. Let's see if that other thing popped up, the responses. So it's giving me some data here. It's obviously the ones that they had to draw. I still have to go look at the slide because it just says drawing. But this is telling me like who was participating and what they put. So it's just a neat way that it collects some information without me having to go through and grade it. But it depends on the kind of questions I had. It works good if it's like multiple choice questions. If it was short answers, I could at least have them all in a spreadsheet and then I could go through and grade them. So it pulls up some data right away. Now, if I want to reopen the session, I can open it back up, and here's where I can turn on student paste. So maybe we go through it together, but then maybe I have the kids go back into it later on their own, or maybe I just send it to them to work on independently. I have that option of making it student paced or live, which is where we were projecting it and I was controlling what slides they were on. So if I was in the classroom, a live one's really nice because I can control the slides. If I'm online, it's probably easier to have student paced as an option, where you give them some things and then you can go back later and look at their answers to what they did and count that as an assessment. So you can create a lesson right here in the PearDeck website or in the application on a device, or you can do like I did where I was in Google Slides and I had the add-on, and that's where I was playing with the tools right into my Google Slides. It had some other ones. I don't think we got to look at all of them, but it had some science ones. These were some that were already created. So to get to the ones that were created, I went to our template library, and it had these where you can just click on it and it will add it to the presentation. So that was really nice. I didn't have to create it myself. So now I just added one right here that would show up in my presentation. I can go by subject area, so I could look up specifically something for math. And I am using the free version, so I don't have all the bells and whistles, but there are a lot that are already created if you buy a version. So, you know, I would experiment with it and see if it's something you like. It could be worth having an account for, or maybe the school has an account, or your mentor teacher has an account and they want to share it with you. But that's PearDeck. That's a quick recap of PearDeck. And oh, I thought some of these other science ones were really neat because they had where the kids could draw on the periodic table of elements and fill out a graph. So I guess we just didn't quite get to all of them. This one was neat. It will integrate right to Google Earth and have you find a location on Google Earth, and it will just show that. So we went through a bunch of those. I'm going to see if there's questions in the chat before we look at Nearpod, because time is flying by. I can see the chat again. Looks like I've missed a lot. Thank you for posting the link again to the presentation. So I think it was just questions about logging in, and you all were wonderful about helping each other. I appreciate that. The student pace will give an access code, and I believe it might be different, a different code than when it was together. So to get the code, once you have it all set up how you want it, so let's say I added a question, then I can go to start lesson, and I get to decide. You see on my screen, now it's asking me, oops, my screen's cut off, if I want self-paced or instructor-paced. So I could click on self-paced, and it's going to open up in PearDeck. And then it will generate that code that I can share. And I could also get to it through the web browser. Other questions about PearDeck? In the session that we're doing today, I know I'm covering a lot in a short amount of time. So I am recording this, and I will, usually I take the recording after it's done and I edit it so that it's a little bit more streamlined for people who are watching it asynchronously. So I will edit it, and then I will be able to email all the participants, everybody who's been here, so you can watch it again. And I encourage you to look at a lot of the resources too. So the other add-on that we were going to look at is Nearpod. So I'm going to switch gears to the Nearpod. I don't know if there's a voice recording. I know that Nearpod has some of the same types of features, and some that are different than PearDeck. And Nearpod has the voice feature, but I didn't see it on the PearDeck. And remember, I'm using the free one, so it's possible that there is that feature in the non-free version. So the next one we're going to look at is Nearpod. And again, Nearpod is the same thing. I went to add-ons and I added it as an add-on. And then when I go to open Nearpod, it will show me all the different types of questions that I can add to my slides. So here's the audio one, the voice recording we were talking about. There's videos, there's a collaborate one, a virtual field trip, fill in the blanks. You can connect to Flipgrid, create matching activities, memory tests, open-ended questions, polls, simulation. So it has, I would say when I compare them, Nearpod seems to have a little bit more features that are available for free, but PearDeck has a really good selection of already generated slides that I can easily drag and drop into Google. Nearpod has some lessons that are already created that you can use and modify, but those you would have to get to by going to Nearpod. So at the end, whenever you add your slides, you still have to go into Nearpod to be able to really look at some that are already created, because it doesn't give me the option here like it does with PearDeck. So first, just so you can see what they look like, what I did was I was creating a presentation here, and it was really slow because I have so many slides and things from PearDeck. So we're going to go to Nearpod. I actually created a separate presentation with just the Nearpod to make it a little easier, and that's linked below in the speaker notes. But if we go to Nearpod, and we're going to use the code YMQEJ. So I'm going to open this up and share with you. YMQEJ. You have to go to join.nearpod.com, or if you were in the app, you would just go to Nearpod, join a session. Putting the link in the chat.
I have a question.
4 people have joined, so I can also see the list.
I was in your session a while back with Nearpod, and I did the you gave me feedback, and I understood your feedback, but I had difficult time. I think it's the hyperlink or adding a link. What you said to me was something about I didn't add a link or something. And I was like, I thought I did, and then I didn't understand what do you mean link then? Like I thought it was like I added a YouTube link, like a video, and it wasn't. You told me it wasn't the link that you want us to, or I didn't understand that. Can you clarify? And how do you do it? That was my struggle, was putting a link for some reason. When you're
do you mean putting a link into your Google Slides, or do you mean into your Nearpod presentation?
Nearpod presentation.
Okay, so
that was my struggle when we were doing when I was doing it, and we had to send it into you, and you were really good feedback, and I really liked, you got me into Nearpod actually, so I enjoyed it, and it was like a really good experience. But I tried to play with it more. It's like Google Slides, practically like what you said. But I didn't know how to do the link part. I was having difficulty on that.
So let's after we look at some of these features, let's see from the teacher view, and maybe I can walk you through it.
Okay.
Now I don't have a paid for account, so it only is allowing 40 people to join. So if you weren't able to join, I didn't realize it was going to do that. Maybe you can look on my shared screen and just see kind of, I just put a few examples of slides that you could have. On my shared screen, I can see who's logged in. I can toggle between the different slides, and I can have your names display when you're answering questions, or I can hide the student names. So that's at the discretion of the teacher and what works well with your students. So I'm going to go to a video that I added. So this might be what you're talking about, Kaylee. I'm not sure. On this device, I can watch the video, or I can make sure all devices watch it. So what I did was I just embedded a video about Nearpod, and it should be playing for you if you're logged in.
Student engagement platform that comes with thousands of ready-to-run interactive 12 lessons. Nearpod.
So I can control this if we're watching it and it's a presentation format where everybody's device would have the video playing, or it could just be something in the standalone mode where the student has a video that they can look at. You had to click it yourself. So, oh, it didn't control it. Interesting. I thought there was an option it gave me if I could play it for everybody. So maybe not.
That easily allows teachers to create.
Does it play when I push it for you?
No, we actually have to manually press play.
Okay, so you have control. You get your own control. That's interesting. As far as the max number of participants, I would say you probably have to see if you can sign up for an account as an educator. They might be doing some specials right now because of COVID-19, where you can get a better premium access, but I'm not sure. I just have the free one. And so, you know, if you did this at student self-paced, you wouldn't have everybody logging in necessarily at the same time, and it might work. I don't know exactly how they monitor that. It might still cap at 40, but maybe you could duplicate it and have 2 presentations. So that's something you'd have to play with to see what the features allow you to have. And I don't know, maybe your co-teacher, if you co-teach, could have their own account and have a duplicated one. So you could split up the kids that way and have half of them in one of the sessions and half in another if they're doing it at their own pace, and then you could keep track of who's there. It's a great question that I don't know exactly as far as what it allows you to do with a free versus paying for it. But this is an example of where I've added a video. And then if I go to my next slide, I've added a PDF that you should be able to access. And the PDF is a document that tells you all about Nearpod. So I think it will allow you to click on it and open that PDF. I'm going to keep moving through. I can put a website link. So this is just a link right to Nearpod that I could put where the students can go right directly to the site I want them to. And it's just embedded in the presentation. This is an example where we can ask questions, and I can actually decide if I want to approve the comments. So it's live and I want to make sure they're appropriate. I can test and actually have to see what you say before they get posted. So are you able to type in there? Let's see if anyone's adding things. What are technology tools you've observed with your mentor teacher students and your own children in online settings? And now as they're being added, I can get rid of things that I think, you know, maybe I'm going to get rid of this hi comment and it won't show up. I can like things. The more that I like things, they will pop up usually to the top if I pick the likes. So now we can be looking at the really popular ones that are liked versus the ones in order of when they're posted, and it's showing the names, but I could hide the names if I know that students are less likely to participate. I could decide to approve them, and it's just going to show stars instead of names, and then it'll show me before people post, and I can decide if I want to allow that or not allow it. So the next one is just a poll where I can add a timer and allow you to tell me quickly an answer to a question, whether it's just kind of an informal thing, or maybe I really want to collect some data from you. And I can share with you what people are saying. So you'll be able to see it, or I can take it away. It's automatically generating some of that information. And the timer's ticking. And if you didn't get to do it, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to go through these quickly. So they also have a database of already created simulations where you can go through and answer some practice questions. So you can see how in this one, you're having to build the fractions. You can kind of use the visuals. Here's a science one that they already had. So you're looking at electrical charges. And you can have tools that you can play with adding on electric, positive and negative charges, show no charges. So it's just kind of fun. That was already in there. This was really neat. They had a virtual field trip where it'll take you to a place. So I picked Santorini, where I wish I was. And we can all look at it through virtual reality mode. If you had Google glasses, you could actually look at it through there, and it would look like three-dimensional. So you can see how we can add different things to make it really interactive and meaningful for the students. We can also connect to Flipgrid. So I had connected to a Flipgrid activity, but we don't really have time to actually go through and fill out the Flipgrid, but it does integrate nicely with Flipgrid. So now I'm just going to show you what the teacher side looks like. So I'm going to leave the session and go back to my view of it. So all the different presentations you create will show up in your library, and this is where you can decide if they're going to be live or student paced. So then I can go to my library and sorry, I'm already there, reports, and I can look up a session that I had and print up a post-session report. So I can go to that presentation we were just doing. It looks like I had it open at different times. So the first time was me just testing around. So you can see it was just one student. If I click on it, now it gives me this really great data report of what the different answers were to the poll. It really depends on the kind of question if this data is helpful to me, but it shows me what the answers were or what was drawn. I didn't really have all of these types of questions included. It'll connect me to the Flipgrid if I had fill in the blanks. So that's a great way to pull up my data. Going back to my presentation, the way that I added the features, so there was a question about how to add a video or a link. This is where it will show you the different content. So if I wanted to add a video or a link, I would click on it and it will automatically open up, allowing me to either put my own URL or something from Google, or I can do a search for it and then I can save it. So if I did a search, which I had for Nearpod, and I put a video, then I should be able to click it and add it. And it's looking like, because my presentation is over 20 megabytes, it's not allowing me because I'm on the free version. So I might, be able to do that if I had the non-free version. I do have a lot of slides on here, but I could do it in my other presentation that I made with that only has like 10 slides. And so I could again go to add-ons, Nearpod, open Nearpod. And Kaylee, is that what you were asking about for being able to upload the video and where to go?
I did what I follow what Nearpod did. I kind of did what you did, but what you wrote to me was saying like I didn't have a hyperlink or a in it. That's what you I was trying to go over what you did, what you said last term when I did your session. So I'm just trying to figure out how to do it properly. But I'll try to do it again and see how it worked out.
Yeah, maybe you can just email me what we were looking at, and that way it will refresh my memory, and then I can try to help you.
But I really like Nearpod though. I will tell you, I understood what you were saying about how it's interactive with students. So when I was playing around with it, I learned a lot about like the polls and all those things that you talked about.
That's awesome. I'm so glad. So yeah, let me know if you still need that question answered, and maybe I can look at it more closely with you.
Thank you.
So yeah, sure. So now just going back to the presentation for the sake of time, we are at 2 o'clock. So there are a lot of resources I've shared with you. Again, just within each slide, there's links if you look in the speaker notes. And also I have some links here to some of the places where I found the templates and the videos and just some guidance of how you can use these things as a teacher. I've embedded some videos that are specifically walking you through how to set up your Google Slides and what you can do as a teacher with Google Slides. So that's just there to help you kind of figure things out. To get credit for participating today, you will need to fill out this attendance form. This is a link, and when you click on the link, it should have everything filled out as far as the name of the session and my name, but you'll need to add what term you're in, who your faculty is, and then at the bottom, I did put a section, scroll down, where if you decide to create a Google Slides presentation, if you can go ahead and share the link that you're going to use, you can add it here. And if you're not sure yet, maybe you want to look at it a little bit more, you can share it just with email with me. So what you'll do when you fill out this attendance form is you'll go to create a Google slide. And you don't have to, by the way. This is just if you want to earn the 2 additional hours, which means you'll earn that time for putting together your own presentation. And, you know, it might take you more than 2 hours if you really go crazy with it. So that's something that you can discuss with your faculty if it does end up taking more time and they're willing to verify the hours. But I'm only able to verify 2 additional hours. So you can share your presentation with me. So let's say I want to create a new presentation. You'll go, I'm going to just model for you. If I open up a new tab in Google, and this is for anybody who might not be familiar with it, I'm going to go to my little waffle and I'm going to look for the slides link. And sometimes it doesn't show up if you don't use it a lot. So you have to keep scrolling down and look for more from the marketplace if it's not there. But I'm going to go to slides and I'm going to create a new one. And I think in the video it showed you that shortcut where you could just hit new slides or something and it opened up. Create your new one. And then when you go to share it, you're going to go ahead and you can click share and you can share it directly with me, although you do have to name it. So let's just call it sample. So if I go to share, you can actually put in my email address and it will share it with me that way. You can share it where I can just view it, or I'd like to be able to comment, which would be nice. So comment and then send it that way to me. The other option is it gives you a link. So you can copy that link, and when you're filling out the attendance form, sorry, whichever tab it's in, not that one, okay. When you're filling out the attendance form, you can copy that link into the form too. So that question is not a mandatory question, but if you want to go ahead and create the one that you're going to use to share, you can add that to the attendance form, or you can just share it with me later through that sharing feature. And I'd love to know what you found helpful. I know it was a lot of information. So again, the recording will be available once I have it edited and ready. I'll be able to share that with you because I'll have your emails. Your emails will be in the attendance form. It's collecting them automatically when you sign that. So I can share it that way. And then, you know, I'll see if there's anywhere else that we're posting things. If you were in my Google Classroom presentation last week, I might be able to post it there as well. But the idea is that you're gonna, if you wanna add the 2 additional hours, you're gonna build your own presentation where you are playing with some of these features to make it interactive. Maybe you'll try out one of the templates. Maybe you'll add Nearpod or PearDeck and put some slides for that. It's really entirely up to you. Any subject area, maybe something that you're going to do for your coursework that you are actually making a lesson plan for. Or maybe if you're in a specific placement and you know your mentor teacher wants you to do a lesson on a specific topic. It's very open-ended. Your presentation can be about anything. It's an idea for you to practice using some of those tools. And the attendance form is hyperlinked right in my presentation, and I will also paste it into this chat. But it's on that slide before the questions. Oh, thank you. Somebody already beat me to it.
When you were talking about the link, it's in your slides. It wasn't highlighting up when I was doing it. Just letting you know.
Let's see.
That's
how I got to it. So. So I had to click it and then it popped up.
Let me try it again.
And if you're in presentation mode, I don't think it will show up. So that could be also part of it.
Okay. Oh, now it's working. Okay, when I was clicking on it, it didn't do the link. Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, you're so welcome. I did not say how many slides because I'm going to leave that up to you, creative liberty. It's going to be obvious if you spent 2 hours putting together your presentation versus just creating 1 slide or 2 slides. So if you're wanting to earn 2 hours, I would say that, you know, make it reasonable for what you actually would do within that 2 hours. And that I know is going to be different for everybody depending on like if you're playing with Nearpod and PearDeck versus just adding a template. But use your own, you know, discretion. And if you have questions, you can always email me, and be sure you share whatever you create with your faculty. And again, you don't have to do that piece. You can just earn the 2 hours, or as a follow-up, you can play with the bells and whistles. So if you're planning to do the slide assignment, put 4 hours.
I will tell you that the assignment will take you like 2 to 3 hours, because it took me 2 to 3 hours to you learn to play around with it. Yeah, it's possible, because I did like 6 slides, but you have to research and figure out what you want to put it in order. It takes time, and I will say it's worth it though. It is worth it of what you've been teaching us today, because I learned it the second time now, and I learned a lot more. I feel like the second time doing the Zoom meeting is more detailed, and I actually liked it even more because you went over a lot more.
Thank you. That was my goal.
Yeah, it was a good goal then, because I learned a lot today than I did. Like, I learned, of course, the first time you did it, but I felt like this time it was just more like I learned a lot more. Like, you gave more information for us to do or to understand. Yeah.
And you know, we will have other PDs throughout the summer, and it's possible. One of my colleagues is really knowledgeable with Nearpod, and she had done one in the spring, and she might have another one where she does walk you through specifically with Nearpod. And you know, I just want to provide an overview of a lot of tools, because we're all in such different places with what we're comfortable with and what you're familiar with. So I wanted you to just see all the different ways you could use Google Slides, but you know, I can't go over all of them in as much detail in such a short time. So hopefully you found something that you're able to explore further. And I'm glad that you were here. So thank you.
I have one more question. When say I decide to do this later sometime, the follow-up project, because of some class assignment that I would like to integrate it with. So is it possible to like add 2 hours right now and then do the 2 hours later sometime during the term?
Yes, just you'll have to follow up with me, because I have to submit the Google form so that everyone gets their hours. And I've been trying to do them. I still haven't submitted the one from last week yet, because there were some people continuously adding things and following up with me. So if you'll just remind me so that I can make sure you get credit, because I'll probably submit it so other people who, when they finish, get credit. Let's say like what I've been trying to do is like a 1 week turnaround. So to give you a week from today to have your presentation, so that I can go through them and give feedback. But if you end up needing additional time, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So if we're planning on doing the follow-up assignment, would you want us to wait to submit the attendance form until we're done with the assignment, or?
No, you can submit the attendance form and just share the assignment with me through my email.
Okay.
If you don't have a link yet, that's fine. I just added it there in case you want to. I think you can still go back into the attendance form and edit your response. So you could probably add it later too if you want.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we're looking at a 1 week turnaround of trying to have the presentation submitted to me so that I can make sure you get your hours. And again, if you need more time, just let me know.
I had a quick question for last session. I tried to open up the attendance form, and it says to contact owner. Could you post?
I think, you already emailed me, correct?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, what happened is because it was 1 week ago already, I closed it so that I could send in the hour verification, and I just need to open it again. So
Okay,
I will open it again this afternoon, and then I will let you know, and you should be able to go in and add your information.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question about last week as well.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to remember, was last week's session worth 2 hours because we created our Google Classroom while we were working?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. And so we didn't need to
go
do
in as much depth.
Okay, yeah, I was